Welcome to Design Domination, where you'll learn to become a better, more business-savvy designer so you can dominate your competition. Hi, and thanks for tuning in. I'm Colleen Grotzer, and in this episode of Design Domination, I talk about 6 types of problem clients and how to fire them if you decide to do so. I'll also talk about when it's you, not them, who is the reason for the breakup. Your freelance business does not need to feel like a circus, but you do need to be the ringleader. In business and in life, we teach people how to treat us. Identifying and addressing problematic behavior gets you closer to identifying your ideal clients because you learn what you do and don't want to deal with. Now, sometimes for the money, we choose to continue working with problem clients, and we make excuses for their behavior and see it as a normal part of doing business, especially when there is little work from other clients. I fired some of them for all of the reasons that I'm about to get into, and more, like straight up wild, wild west. Just like in life, appearances can be deceiving when it comes to clients. Problem clients have many faces, some of which I've named: the narcissist, the client who cries wolf, the magician, the tire kicker, the client with 2 faces, and the bully. Now, to clarify, problem clients are usually repeat offenders, not one-off violators who might actually have a legit excuse, such as they're having a bad day or going through a traumatic life event at the moment. Those are not the clients that I'm talking about. I'm talking about the ones who do these things on a regular basis, and that affects your work and your mental health. So number 1 is the narcissist. The narcissist who thinks everything is all about them all the time might be just plain rude when communicating with you, disrespect your policies and process, such as paying your invoices late, ignoring late fees, refusing to send edits the way that you've requested. They might stand you up for scheduled calls or meetings, disrespect your boundaries, like expecting you to respond outside of your set work hours, and they may regale you with stories of how, quote-unquote, incompetent designers failed them in the past. You are particularly susceptible to this type of client when you lack confidence. I put up with a terrible one for many years for the money. She would contact me at my full-time job, which I had asked her not to do, and they would often pay me at 90 days past the date of the invoice and have 3 invoices outstanding at all times, all late. But when I stopped work and sent them a letter threatening collections after an invoice had been 120 days past due, it might have even been 6 months past due, my inquiries regarding the status of that payment just went ignored. So after I sent that letter, I received a nasty phone call from the accountant scolding me for having sent that letter and telling me I should have known they would eventually pay me. The nerve. Now, the consequences of dealing with the narcissist, okay, your stomach flops when you get a call or email from them, like you're just, ugh. And you hate how they make you feel. And you feel powerless to gain control back. Now, the remedy is that, if you're not ready to fire this type of client, then reassert boundaries. Make it clear what your policies and procedures are, okay? State the consequences of not abiding by these policies. So, late fees for late invoices or a charge for a missed meeting. And then enforce those policies, because there's no point in having policies if you're never going to enforce them. And a repeat offender needs to have some kind of enforcement. And then reconfirm your work hours. The narcissist client still might not comply and instead feel that you threatened their authority and they might leave on their own. The second type of problem client is the client who cries wolf. Now, the client who cries wolf is also known as the disorganized client. They always need work done ASAP or by tomorrow. Yet once it's time for them to review proofs or get you content, it's suddenly no longer an emergency, and you might go weeks or longer without hearing a peep. That client does not plan ahead, and they may require more handholding and as a result, more of your time. Now, the consequences of dealing with the client who cries wolf are that you reschedule other client work, or you end up working later or on weekends to accommodate their rush schedule. The remedy, if you're not ready to fire this type of client, then suggest a call and come up with a schedule and a plan together to try to rein things in. You might even suggest certain tools in order to help them accomplish this, such as, using a calendar app or a Trello board or something. I mean, design is not heart surgery. Everything cannot always be an emergency. Now, I once tried this approach with a client for a monthly publication I worked on. The work for both of us was the same every single month. I wrote up the process with what was needed to be done and when it needed to be done every month. And then I gave it to the client with a checklist. Well, the client proved to be completely incompetent. I got asked the same questions over and over every month, even though these were all addressed in the schedule and the checklist that I gave. It was like dealing with someone with amnesia every single day. I just couldn't take it anymore. Now, the other thing you can do is charge extra for the rushed schedule in hopes that they get their act together to save themselves money. Otherwise, at least you're making more money to deal with getting the work done at the drop of a hat. Now, the third type of problem client is the magician. The magician disappears at various times throughout the project, not to be reached by phone or email, and then they expect you to just jolt back into reality at the snap of their fingers. They leave you wondering what happened to that project. So you focus on other client work only to have them reappear and want the work finished immediately. The consequences of dealing with the magician are that you end up rescheduling other work to fit them in when they decide to reemerge. The remedy for this is to try adding to your contracts a restart clause where you charge a fee to restart work after X number of days or months, in the hopes that this is going to light a fire under them, but also because you have to spend time getting reacquainted with the project every time they ghost. The fourth type of problem client is the tire kicker. The tire kicker is always focused on cost, not value, and is penny-wise and pound-foolish. The tire kicker sees your work as an expense, not an investment. So they see a brochure, as just a brochure, not a marketing tool that will make them appear professional and do something for them. They request that you work at an hourly rate, and they may even try to negotiate down your hourly rate. They may question your invoices. Did it really take you 2 hours for that? The tire kicker is always looking for the cheapest deal and may even get estimates from other designers and then approach you about price matching the lowest estimate. You've likely tried to help them see the value of your work, yet they continue to see you as just an order taker and don't value you as a partner. Now, sometimes this is a result of them being one of your first clients when you had less experience. And maybe since then you've gained a lot of knowledge and experience that can help them on a higher level, but they just aren't interested in hearing it. They just want you to do what they say and just do it cheap. Now, the consequences of dealing with the tire kicker are that you end up reducing your prices to accommodate their low expectations, and that causes you to be unprofitable and feel resentful. The remedy to this, if you absolutely have to keep them as a client, plan to replace them over a short period of time with new clients who will respect, value, and pay for your expertise. Number 5 is the client with two faces. Also known as the wolf in sheep's clothing, the client with two faces appears on the surface to be so great to work with, almost too good to be true. They shower you with excessive praise about your work, and then they later complain that it's not good enough when they decide that they want to go in a different direction and don't want to pay for it. I've had several prospects who fit this description, and luckily I was able to identify them right off the bat and just say no. But one did slip by me, and I ended up working with them as a client. And in the initial conversation, they were so complimentary of my work, and they painted themselves as the ideal client and said how great they were to work with, and even stressing how important to them it was for them to pay their contractors on time. But that was a crock. I had to fight to get invoices paid, and then I was eventually fired by them for having quote-unquote incompatible billing practices. Ha! Now, the sixth type of problem client is the bully client. Now, the bully is a close cousin of the wolf in sheep's clothing, okay, because they are seemingly pleasant until they don't get their way, and then they have a temper tantrum and verbally assault you with insults when you don't give in to their requests. They also belittle you, and they may display traits of the other client types. So beware. I put up with a bully client for many years, actually. I saw some red flags and I thought about firing them. And I was like, it's just me. But my gut had always been right. The last straw was when I sent him an invoice with late fees. Paying late had become a regular practice for him. And he called to give me an ultimatum. The late fee was like $1 something, I think. And he said, if I pay your $1 late fee, then we're done. Otherwise, I won't pay it and we can continue working together. Well, I guess I could thank him for making that decision super easy. I mean, no one should give you an ultimatum. I decided right then and there I would never let another client run my business. I wasn't happy about losing work, especially over such a small late fee, but this was about principle. And I was more angry than anything else, so I told him those were the terms and I stuck to my guns. And it was scary. I had given him enough leeway in the past and I was no longer willing to do it. So he said, okay, we're done. And then proceeded to yell and insult me and tell me that I was too expensive anyway and that he could find someone else to finish the work for much cheaper. Now later I realized that he acted this way because I had taken back the power. The control in the situation, because I didn't give in to the two choices that he had, pre-selected for me to pick from. Well, I got the last laugh because it's been several years and his new website that I was working on is still not live. So how are those cheap designers working out for you? Now, the consequences of dealing with the bully client are that you feel belittled and frustrated and pushed around and not in control. Now, the remedy for this, I think firing is really the only option. Bully clients affect your business because refusing to follow your processes or abide by your terms, costs you time and money. Bully clients also affect your mental health, and that affects your business when it comes to other clients or talking to prospective clients. Abusive clients have their own drama and issues going on, and they're constantly trying to drag you down with them. Don't get sucked in, get out. Now, like I said earlier, if you don't want your freelance business to become a circus, you've got to be the ringleader. You don't want to put up with any of these problem clients anymore, and why should you? So to free yourself from these types of clients, you want to explain, preferably on the phone, and then follow up with an email so that, you're providing written notice that you can reference again if needed. Something to the effect of, after reviewing my business goals / your needs, whatever the case, I've decided we aren't the best fit anymore. After our contract / this project, or, if applicable, provide a date 30 to 60 days out, I recommend you go to Upwork, Fiverr, or a competitor. I will provide you with blank files or information about your brand, if you choose to do that. Thank you for your understanding. You can go to the website for the episode and then copy and paste that and then tweak that to however it would make sense for you. Now, this script puts you in control and positions you as a freelancer who is making a business decision. It keeps things polite, professional, and matter of fact, no emotion, and it's straight to the point. It provides the time frame for when this offboarding is going to happen, so the client is aware and you know when your relief is in sight. It also lets the client know what to expect, whether or not you'll be sending them any files or providing information for them to give to the next designer. Again, if you choose to do that. Now, if they're really unbearable, especially if they're a bully client, then you could potentially refund some or all of what they might have already paid and just be done. Or you could hand over the files that you've been working on and not invoice them any further. And, you might want to look at what your contract says about this too. But the quality of your mental health is greater than the financial loss. Now, 2 other points to think about. You certainly don't want to recommend them to anyone that you like, unless you are upfront about the situation. And it's up to you to decide if you want to invest any time in ensuring the smooth transition to another designer. The bully client, I think, has lost that privilege from the sheer fact of being a jerk. Okay, so now let's switch gears. So when it's you who's doing the breakup, this might be a result of having outgrown the client, and that happens. Maybe the client's budget is too small for the higher level work that you're now doing. Maybe you started working with them when you were fresh out of school. Maybe they were one of your first clients. It also might be the result of a decision to specialize in a certain industry or type of work, and they don't fit into that category now. When you decide to part ways under these circumstances, especially if it's always been a good relationship, then I recommend a different approach from the previous one. Something like, I'm so grateful you've entrusted me over the years to help with your work. As much as I've enjoyed working with you, I recently decided to focus on fill in the blank type of work or industry. This will go into effect once, and then you put in our contract or this project has ended, or, if it's applicable, provide a date 30 to 60 days out. In order to make the transition as smooth as possible and to leave you in good hands, I have talked to a few trusted colleagues who would be interested in potentially working with you. Of course, you want to make sure that you've talked to these colleagues first before you send that email. In any of these situations with the problem clients or you doing the breakup, if the client responds to it begging you to stay, stand your ground, especially if your decision was due to their bad behavior. In a future episode, I will talk about how to screen clients so that you can hopefully spot some of these problem clients before you end up working with them. If you found this helpful, please leave a review and like and share it on social media. Join the Design Domination community on Facebook and go to creative-boost.com to download free resources and apply for design coaching.